Good afternoon. Welcome to the U.S. Go Congress here in William & Mary. I'm Keith Arnold, HKA, AGA Fordon, and next to me is Eric Louis, Wandon Professional. We're both from Baltimore. We're delighted to be down here at the Congress because it's pointless watching the Orioles these days. So, without further ado, we've got some catching up to do on this first round Redmond Cup game. Guys have been playing for about a half hour, so we're going to go over the opening and then hopefully catch up with the players. So I believe that Jeremy Chiu is black?
Jeremy Chiu is white.
White.
And, Aaron Ye is black.
Okay. So. I guess a quick remark on this. This is a kind of a fairly recent innovation from the computer world.
Right. It was first played by AlphaGo, and it's been adopted by other computer programs.
And human beings.
Right. So, what is there to say about this Shamari? It's in a high position. So it's good for influence and not so good for territory.
Yeah, certainly no high-low balance on this side of the board right now, on the right.
So in the game, white plays 3-3, which has become the most common joseki move thanks to AI.
So the Fordon in me feels like this is a little counterintuitive. You've got this chance to build on the right side of the board for black. Why block on that side?
Yes, that's true. Common sense would suggest black block on this side. So let's see what might happen.
I'll assume they play like computer types and do this instead of the old-fashioned way.
Right, so let's skip this for now.
Okay, fair enough.
So the old joseki, the old 3-3 joseki has white playing Hane and Connect. And then black makes a thick shape. However, on a wide open board, this is good for black. Black's influence is very powerful, and black stones are very efficient. So this is good for black. If black stone were here, were closer, then white's Hane and Connect would be a good move, and that's a question of efficiency. So instead, white may consider playing either on the bottom side or the right side. So assuming white doesn't play on the right side immediately, for example, like this, and let's say black plays a simple move, then white can play this move on the right. And this move is the weakness of black's two-space high enclosure.
Interesting, and it feels like we've broken the board up into smaller groups, and with Comey, that tends to be a good development for white.
Right.
Black isn't getting that first advantage, big something.
Yes. So that's not to say that this is bad for black by any means. In a game, black blocks from the other side. So up to this point, it's a joseki that we've seen before in the past. However, just not quite so early.
Right.
Or thanks to AI, these 3-3 variations are happening immediately. So this hane and cut is a AI innovation, and it has a clear purpose. So in this local shape, the first move that comes to mind is to extend. And like this, black ends in gote. The right side is open, and white can now play on the upper side. So this development feels it feels fast for white.
Yes.
Playable. So by playing hane first, and then this cut, it forces white to choose between atari this stone or this side. And if white ataris here, then black can take this opportunity to seal off the opening from here.
Which is the side we originally wanted black to build on, so it suddenly all makes sense now.
Right, and this stone, if you notice, it looks to be in a good position.
Yes, I agree.
In the game, Jeremy chooses to atari from the other side. So white adds this atari to make some aji in black shape. And up to here, it's a very common shape in AI games. And next, black's move depends on the ladder. So if the ladder were favorable for black, black can simply atari.
But it looks like that ladder's going to run into trouble around here.
Right, it's
so.
going to hit this white stone. So instead, black plays a looser move. And now for the time being, white leaves this aji in play and plays elsewhere. And now the bottom side is very big. So have you seen this shape before?
We had a workshop at my house, actually. Eric showed us a lot of these variations and showed them, and I think this was one that came up, no?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I thought so. it's interesting because to my less trained eye, it looks so good for black, but the more you look at it, you kind of understand that it's not. At least to me, it still looks good for black, but not as good as it looks at first, I think. So.
Right, it seems to be a balanced result for both. For me personally, I might prefer black because I believe playing on the outside in the opening is usually a good strategy. So white plays its big point, but actually white has another choice. And that's to protect here. And this move, at first glance, it looks slow. However, there's an aim to activate this stone. And this move also removes the possibility of black forcing from this side. And you might notice that white isn't alive locally. So black approaches, and white answer is very interesting.
Yeah, it's solid as far as his top group, but it doesn't have a lot of pincerish impact on the black stone.
Right, so if white answers normally, it can be assumed that black is aiming to play
attack, right.
here.
Yeah, that's certainly.
Or attach. And this way, this exchange can be beneficial for black.
But normally, of course, when we what's called pincer a stone, we usually don't leave them enough room to make this much space. So you would think you would at least want to go this far, but I guess white must be worried about that gap.
Right. This move is more of a defensive posture rather than a pincer. And in response, black simply takes territory. So white has initiated a fight immediately. So considering this this local shape only, white's honte move is to play here.
Right. It seems like in some of the older books there was a lot of emphasis on this move, black responding here, I believe, but the modern game is a little bit tighter, and this is usually suggested.
Right. So this is the proper move that fixes white's shape. However, in the game, white wants to be more active. And this move, I've seen white play here. However, let's see how this one turns out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Looking very much like, I think the Japanese phrase is a gazumi, empty triangle that is still the right move.
Yeah, in this case, it's the only move.
Right.
So this attachment is interesting. So the move that immediately comes to mind is to play here.
Okay, for me it was the attachment, but oh, I see, because you're smarter than me, and you're willing to give up the 3 stones for a greater deal of power.
Well, I'm not saying this is a good idea.
Okay, but it immediately popped into your head.
Right. So this looks like a loose net of sorts, but unfortunately, white can escape.
Mm.
And if black connects, it looks like we're playing a lot of stones, but actually it's a one-way street. And up to here, black has given up too much territory.
Yeah, it's. I think that's a really interesting example. I mean, a lot of people be focusing on how big this is, but this is so tight and absolute. And when you make this big shimari, there's still some aji in that corner. So that gives the trump to the white here, I think.
Right, and black needs another move to make it a thick shape.
Yes, that's true too. So that's interesting. It's a little bit of eye shape, I guess. I mean, my natural tendency would have been just to play here and make the bamboo joint connection.
Yes, actually, I would like to play here.
Yeah, that seems doable.
However, it seems that white would answer like this. And now black will come back here.
So black plays the move he knows he has to play eventually anyways, sort of first.
Right, but I still prefer playing here because now it's as if white made this exchange now, and that's a good exchange for black.
Agreed.
So white cannot answer here because black can capture white's 3 stones.
Okay. Would it be starting with this?
That one wouldn't work.
Okay. No. So much for me trying to pass a test early on. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. I see.
So black is playing very tightly. He's guaranteeing eyes for himself before attacking white.
Obviously.
So the first feeling is that black is not very successful. So now this Atari is very comfortable for white. So in the game, white plays here. That's unexpected.
Yeah, it's hard to see. Eric and I share a common teacher, and when faced with a situation like this, where you have an Atari on a stone like this, and you know that one of the Ataris is very unlikely to be useful, you should just make the Atari that is useful, because you're not wasting anything, because the other one's going to be bad. This seemed to be pretty close to that situation where why not?
Yes. So after white Ataris, black is hard pressed to find a good answer. Is black going to connect? Then now it seems unlikely for black to mount a severe attack on white.
And his area here is also limited.
And notice how with these exchanges, black has solidified white on the top.
Right.
And given away some solid territory, and now black has to get something in return. So this move is too loose. And in response, it's as if black thought white had played here and connected.
Yeah. You almost, we're looking at this on reviewing on the case, you almost worry that you've got a transcriber error almost the way that came up.
But looking at the live feed, it looks right.
Okay, good. Or bad, depending on point of view.
So white makes a light, flexible shape inside black's influence. And actually, it could be only a matter of time before black is actually the one under attack.
Right.
If we notice, considering only a local area, black is not alive.
At least he owes a move at this point for sure.
Right.
And now we come to what you've already expressed as the weak point of the alpha go shimari, we'll call it. And black and white gets there.
Right. It's a move that white aims to play almost not necessarily as soon as it becomes a good move, but it's always one that they keep in mind.
It's on the laminated part of the shopping list. You add other things later.
Yeah.
Still, it seems white's under enough pressure that I'm liking what black's getting in the corner so far. But it still isn't the big thing that black was planning on.
Yes. it's not a very big piece of territory. Okay, so now it appears that we've caught up with the game. Once again, players are Jeremy Chiu on white and Aaron Ye taking black. Aaron is a 5-time Redmond Cup winner. Jeremy has won it once. All right, so we have a question. Okay, we have a comment.
Right. That the knight's move, I guess this one we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Was really good. And we talked about how that's a key move in the shape, and I certainly think it was well timed. And yet, perhaps a little bit of pro thought on where you make this good move, and yet it's played against, and you just leave it. I mean, it's like sacrificing your children. I mean, what is the advantage of making it? What do you gain when you then just leave it?
So you're saying?
I'm saying, we all agree this was a good move at the time. So like our favorite toys, we don't want to give it away. And so in the game, though, it gets attacked, and normally when you get contacted, you respond, but white plays lightly from it. So I'm at least a little unclear of the advantage gained by the good-looking move when the game moves in another direction.
So would you prefer to play here directly?
Well, no, you've got to do, okay, so no, clearly you
Right.
have to play here, because otherwise it's obvious that you get fourth line pressure on white that way. So this does,
It does help white to move
it
out
supports
quicker.
the stone. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I see. Interesting. So in the game, did black push once?
Yes.
And so I guess at this point, you've given me enough to answer my own question. White has gotten this out of the move, and the move is no longer as crucial.
Right, this stone has become white.
Interesting, very interesting. All right, so then after that, it was the jump, right?
Right.
And
And black played here.
black then played there, right? And then we had the contact move. And this is another theme, although this was far more known in professional play and Go, contact moves. But I think it's fair to say that AlphaGo has increased their use. I don't know how dramatically, but certainly to an extent.
Yes, so in this case, the attachment, it makes a lot of sense because black has a lot of stones around, and there's a principle in Go we call overconcentration. It's when you make too many stones in one area, you're being inefficient.
And similarly, with all this backup, this stone is, the other way of thinking of it is this stone has become strong. And you don't want to touch a weak stone because the stone can get stronger, but this stone has become strong enough that this is well timed.
Yes. So if black were to answer directly, for example, like this, now white has solidified black even further, and white doesn't mind because white has gained on the outside.
All right, so we're going to take a break, let you guys focus on the gentlemen who are fighting for these things, and we'll be back in a little bit to explain what you're about to see. Fordon from Baltimore with Eric Louis, Wondon Pro, also from Baltimore. And we're here at the US Go Congress. I read my Roman numerals on the shirt across the way from me, the 34th US Go Congress, the biggest event every year here in America. And we're looking at the first game of the senior Redmond Cup between Aaron Ye and Jeremy Chiu. I haven't butchered the pronunciations too badly. When we left our heroes, they had we had this attachment. Last play by White.
Great. So I said earlier that this attachment has the purpose of over-concentrating black. So in the game, black answered indirectly. So now black has two groups to aim at. Neither one is fully settled. It's also unlikely that either group will be killed.
But profit can be exerted from them, perhaps.
Right. It's a question of how much profit black can gain from attacking. Another attachment. So the easiest move that black can play is to simply come down here. However, white can enter the corner like this.
And then the king.
Right.
And then live with this. Okay.
And now white makes a living shape. And black hasn't made any obvious gains. In fact, there are weaknesses in black's shape. So this attachment, we can call it a leading attack. Black aims to gain some forcing moves on this side, and then potentially jump in here.
Attack more severely.
So this white's press on top is a move for the circumstances. So normally, white would come down here. However, in this game, this turn is very pleasant for black. And now, this Atari would be
Painful.
painful. Yes.
So, and once you resist here, you've got the exact kind of backstop that you want for your leaning attack.
Exactly.
Try and work in as many baseball metaphors as possible in our Orioles withdrawal.
Yeah, I completely missed that, actually. Nice one, nice one.
I mean, there is a local good shape feel of Haning at the end of kind of reverse engineering Haning at the end of two stones here, but there's also a pushing black towards your weakness
Yes.
that's happening. But then black's next move goes the other direction.
Right, this Hane is black's privilege. And white is willing to allow that because now white controls the flow on the bottom and comes back here.
Of course.
So instead of simply playing here and allowing white to live, black plays a very severe placement. And I'm assuming white will connect. But he doesn't connect.
So we've caught up again. This game has just been played live, I think. So, wow, this is real danger Will Robinson stuff here.
Will Robinson?
You're too old for Lost in Space, but it's being rebooted. Check your Netflix.
I will.
Actually, maybe it's not on Netflix, but we're not supposed to be plugging them anyway. Wow,
So-
this is
So there's a plan here, apparently. Okay, so let's assume white had connected. If white were to connect, how would black continue? So the move here would be this.
right, which is not a bad hunk of territory, but it seems like white ought to be able to live in that corner, at least with Ko.
Yes.
So this is all you got then there?
So yeah, this will be Ko. However, this should be able to live. Locally, it's a bent 4 shape. If we assume black goes all in for a kill, white can activate the Aji, the black's weaknesses, and white will have no problem
Yes.
living.
Yes. And this would be a bad return on investment.
Right, and to make it more clear,
Sort of like trying to steal third with no outs.
yeah, that's usually not a great idea. Also, getting thrown out at third with only 1 out is a bad idea.
Right.
So they played this sequence pretty quickly. So Atari first, and then playing here. It seems like white is trying a bit too hard.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to see where this is significantly better than just living,
Right.
and potentially riskier. One flaw in your reading, and it could go south.
So black connects instead of taking.
Wow.
So white connects. So there's no question that white is safe.
Right,
Because-
in this circumstance, this is sente.
Right. However, white has managed to live, but black has gained some territory. So overall, this local variation is a bit unsatisfying for white. Because if you'll notice before all this happened, I can go back a bit. You'll notice black stones here aren't we cannot call it thickness. I mean, it's not totally alive. There's some strange potential.
This is a nice little placement for it's hard. If these guys are safe, this is a profitable move.
Right. So at this moment, it's a strange move to play, but in a proper scenario, it could be good. And this Atari in particular is an exchange that white really doesn't want to make.
Right.
Because
Definitely paying money.
yes.
You seemed a little surprised by not capturing there instead of extending.
Right. So it's normal to capture.
Has some endgame advantages over here for black. If this gets connected, it's done. Whereas with the other move, if this gets connected, there's follow-up.
However, black might be worried that when white gets to push and cut, there's an Atari. And there's a potential that black's life and death could be in question.
I guess that's true.
So connecting here removes that problem. So white has spent many moves, but white is still not completely settled. Black shows us with this nice move.
So you've played these two players in the past. I know in your pro qualification when you made pro, Aaron was the person you ultimately had to beat for the certification. Do you feel like this game has kind of befitted their usual style that you've seen in the past? Does this look like a game between Aaron and Jeremy? Or are styles so in flux because of the computer transformations?
Right, so as far as style, in the opening, we're seeing a lot of similar stuff being played. However, as far as the middle game, there is no way to completely imitate another player. It's a matter of your own ideas. Okay, and so in terms of Aaron and Jeremy's styles, so when I last played them, they were both very young. They're still quite young. I think that young players, their styles are always evolving, and the tendency should be towards a fighting type of game. I think that.
I think we're seeing some. How should you describe this? This is definitely, I would call this a no one has staked the life of a group yet, but it's kind of low-level skirmishing, I think would be a fair comment.
Right. Fighting is it's an all-encompassing term, right? Sometimes it's fighting between life and death. Sometimes it's fighting for territory. In high-level games, you see struggles to just gain 2 or 3 more points. Yeah. In general, I think that's it's a kind of like a cornerstone of modern Go. It is fighting.
There's a severity. A lot of slow moves that were considered thick at one time. It's not. I think the understanding, or to the extent that we talk about thickness, I think the nature of that has changed. I think dramatically in the current environment. Much more of an emphasis on actual living shapes that can be attacked under no circumstances, as opposed to simply a wall that often would have been favored before. But if the wall doesn't have eyes, it's not as thick as it used to be considered.
Right. Thanks to AlphaGo, a lot of our previous ideas about thickness, they're being reevaluated. It seems that thickness has perhaps been overestimated in the past, and now we see. So in the game, white plays here. It's an interesting shape. So in the Redmond Cup, players have 1 hour basic time. So black is aiming at white's weakness here.
Wow, now we're fighting.
So white doesn't connect because this peep would be threatening to kill white's group. And this push is also, this push and this Atari become EI. So if white protects and makes life, black pushes, and then clamps.
Oh, that's a cool move.
And now white is forced to make life on the inside.
Right.
So instead of protecting the cut, for example, like this, so
It seems to take care of it.
right, it takes care of the cut. However, we still see a problem where this is a sente. And after white protects here, you might notice this squeeze will work.
Well, it's a cut. I mean, that's a cut. So white tries to resist more actively.
So this is an interesting fight, a very unexpected fight. So this kind of exchange, so even if white were to leave it and not continue like this, there is some sense that white has already made some kind of gain, because you see it's an exchange of an outside for an inside stone.
Okay, it's hard to see how useful that outside stone would be, but I accept your comment.
And so in the game, black shows fighting spirit, which here.
So, wow. That's really interesting. So white has gotten out this way clean, but there's a tension between these.
Right, white is being split into several groups here. So now instead of a sente move here, black could use this move as a sente. Of course, black is not going to play it right away because it's black's privilege. So assuming black escapes here, black has, it's almost 100% alive.
Right.
And
These two stones
these two
could be
stones
killed
are,
by this move. Right, that's pretty much.
and even if black doesn't add another move, okay, so black needs another move, or else this will work.
Right.
So now we're caught up to the game.
Right. Do you have a sense of too close to call or extra innings or what's going on? Do you have a feel for someone winning or losing at this point?
It's still hard to say. I think white is a little bit more promising. There's potential, lower left. And black has many small groups and no large territories. And with the 8-point komi, that's always a good thing for white. However, there is a sense that white has overplayed his hand a bit in this area. Originally, white had one large group that was connected, and now white has to settle this group, and potentially these 5 stones will be under attack, and white may end up having to sacrifice them. So now the flow of the game is actually heading in black's direction, because with each exchange that white pushes black into the center, black is gaining. You see white stones are facing black's live group, while with each exchange, black stones are faced towards white's influence.
A potential profit center of white is being diminished. this is again the modern thickness. The fact that you really basically can't kill this group. It's not a fancy wall. It's just a clump that is in white's way from accomplishing anything.
Right. The way that white is playing has made black's earlier moves look very effective. So in Go, you're always trying to make your opponent's earlier moves look bad, and
Right.
your own look good relatively. Of course, in Go, everything is relative. You only need your groups to be slightly thicker than your opponents, and you only need one more point
Right.
in the end.
That's more aggression. This is. I mean, it felt like your feeling was just keeping on running out here was perfectly fine, right?
Yes, this move is. So I'm assuming white will fight. And now,
Is it just some insurance to make sure this doesn't get attacked? I don't think it can be attacked.
I think so. And also it has a purpose of eliminating any eye space that white had.
Mm. You're fine, Steve.
Yeah.
And that's as you predicted.
Right.
Yeah, my tendency would be just wanting to take these stones off here and just breathe a sigh of relief, but that would probably lead to white getting ahead and the marching of the stones in the center.
Well, this will be very solid, but it's too small.
So do you expect something on the left side of the board now, or in this, or white? If black doesn't do this, black's got to keep running out.
Yeah, I'm expecting black to extend.
Yeah, it's looking really dangerous. The two groups, particularly when we have moves here that have impacts on the corner. The thinness of this division it's actually stronger than it looks.
Right.
Which means that the potentiality of exploiting a further seam in white stones becomes real.
Oh, so black played your move.
Well, I don't know.
I think it's a very confident play.
Ah, okay. So we're going to describe this to. I think I'm winning, and I'll just play safe.
Right, because in terms of territory, it's quite small, and it has no. Well, it makes black thick. Yes, so white is alive in the bottom right corner. So when black Atari is here, this push and cut will work. And white can escape out like this.
Right, but and it just still seems like things get weak.
And when black plays here, white can play this move. And because this is white's sente, white is alive.
Right. But this move aims at further. I mean, you've got no eye shape for these guys at all, and maybe a little bit of eye shape, but
Right, so it's a delicate balance that black has to look at. Like after black makes this exchange, immediately it's a loss in territory. If we assume this exchange, black has gained points.
right.
So it's a question of, is black ready to play here, and is he confident enough in the follow-up to forego the possibility of simply playing here? So now, white removes any possibility and plays here. It's a very thick move. So the question is, why doesn't black peep to capture the two white stones? Peep where? Two white stones. These two white stones?
Maybe this peak.
This peep.
This peak captured these. I mean, I don't know. We're trying to decipher a question. The efficacy of this peep, I think, is what's being asked. I'm not sure about the timing.
Can we get a coordinate? So this peep isn't an effective exchange. So after black plays here, you notice black no longer has this sente. And that affects how thick black is on top.
Right. That's some problems on the other side.
Right. So the balance of power is very important. And a lot of times you make one simple exchange that seems inconsequential.
And also you can say, well, you just gained just a little bit here, but there still is a move down here that opens up the corner. So you're not gonna. It's not like you're gonna automatically get all of this. I think any gain here is offset by the issues it causes on this side.
Right. So actually, black can play here directly, and it does prevent white from jumping down here. So white pushes. And now black can play very strongly since he's thick.
Yeah, this really does look good for black. Black is reducing while chasing. It's almost taking away points effortlessly.
Right, white is getting pushed around a bit. However, black has to be careful because, once again, black is still not completely alive. With this move, here, it opens up this one, which works. If you notice, this is actually a false eye. Well, no, actually, it's not. So, black is safe. So now it's, for the past 30 moves or so, it's just middle game fighting, and it's a matter of who has better reading. And in this case, it seems like white made a strategic mistake in letting the groups get separated.
Yeah. I guess, is black worried about this cut, or is black's just simply happy to have got down in here and made what looked like some nice points down here potentially disappear?
So this cut is relatively small, and white has to worry about these 5 stones.
Yeah, that is beginning to look like that's.
And
target.
now white's big group is also in trouble. And white has to find a way to save both of them and not lose too many points in the process. And it's going to be difficult. So black has the upper hand at this point.
We don't have any. We don't have access to the KGS chatter. Maybe we can get a report about what the relative time usage is on the 2 players. Seems like if I was white, I'd be taking more time than black. Black's decisions have kind of been easier for these 30 moves you've been talking about than white's, which make me think that maybe time trouble might be ensuing. Because they've been going since 3 o'clock, so somebody probably, I would suspect somebody's in Byoyomi, because they've been playing for 2 hours and they've got an hour in each, so someone's got to be in Byoyomi at this point.
Right.
Wow, that's aggressive. I mean, right?
I mean, it's better than playing here.
Oh, yes, I guess, of course it is.
Oh, right. So
This is just so easy, right?
Unless this is somehow white can get a clear kill. But
Right. You could give up the corner for that clear kill.
right. So this white seems to be it's hard to understand what white's plan is. So these stones are too big to give up. And if white wants to save them, you have to make a move like this.
And that's obviously painful. I mean, you had a potential 3rd or 4th line territory looking across here, and now you're gappy crawling on the first line. It's not good. And we're getting a report that Jeremy has just entered Byoyomi, so maybe Jeremy was at least ahead on the clock, because Aaron most certainly has to be in Byoyomi, or maybe they're very close together on the timing. my game this morning with hour and a half. I entered Byoyomi. My opponent still had 53 minutes. That was a painful experience. So it just really looks painful. It's painful to go this way, but now black is so stable in the corner, it's painful to go this way too, right?
Right, so at this point, black is definitely in control. And white is making the problem more and more realistic.
I mean, all I can see is this. Is this anything that? No, it doesn't work, does it?
Right. So this move would be answered with an Atari.
Right, and then the connection, and you've got the back door closed.
Right. Aha. However, white has this possibility. But unfortunately, it's a go-take cut. So white might have noticed this.
Oh, but there's this Atari. It's also, you're not going to kill anything. But you at least, oh yeah, then you stake on trying to do this.
Yeah.
Catch the tail.
So black seems to have noticed this problem.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't see these. It's really a wonderful experience. If anyone gets a chance to sit down and watch a game with a friend, you see things that you wouldn't normally see. You get two brains working together, and when one brain's a lot better than mine, it's even better. I'm definitely starting to see some things I don't think I'd normally see.
It's good to hear. So black makes this Atari. It might be just for time.
Wow. Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, it's a common tactic when you are down to Byoyomi. You only have 30 seconds to make a move. If you can find an Atari that won't hurt you, you can make it and buy yourself another 30 seconds to think about what you're actually thinking about. And since we're not in the players' heads, this is a move that could be either way.
Right, and so to prevent white's squeeze from working, black can squeeze instead.
Ah, I see.
And notice that the squeeze, the main use is the potential for eye shape. Like if black were to connect, then white would make two eyes locally.
Right. Wow. So now white practically has to try and crawl.
Right. White, white stones are heavy and cannot possibly be given up at this point.
And do you play here first to keep at least these guys cut off? Or are those two stones not necessarily enough to live?
Well, if white were to play here, black would answer. Then white has to find a way to kill black or surround it in such a way where black has fewer liberties than white.
Right, and if white simply tries to connect, that's gonna end in gote, and you're never gonna have a chance to kill this. So the safety first option isn't really available because you'll lose the target. And we talked earlier that at one point, one of the things that made the game good for white was this profit center, and obviously a move here, it literally changes color
Right.
in terms of profit.
So this is a challenging move from white. It's basically do or die at this point. Because white's push doesn't affect black's life and death here.
Mm-hmm.
So what's stopping black from trying to kill white?
Well, is there a race after this cut? It doesn't look too promising. Black could easily get an eye at least.
So white would have to hane.
No, that doesn't have any issue in the corner yet. Okay, so.
And now it's
It's a healthy number of liberties. But no eye and no prospect of one for white.
so it's a bit complicated. For example, if I place here,
Yeah.
we add this exchange in first. There are flaws in black shape.
Right. It's
And
not a straight shape. It's type of liberties that can collapse quickly.
yeah,
Whereas white shape, you just got to fill them all in. There's no throw-ins and Ataris to speed up the process.
so this seems like a bit of a risk, and black doesn't want to.
And black, in fact, did not, as you can see. But it looked promising for a while there. I was with you in exploring it. And that's the sort of thing also, when you're playing 30 seconds a move, you decide, yeah, I can't go there.
Right.
So he connects. So does this move help a little bit, make this a little better shape, you think?
Yeah, it makes the connection more obvious. But black isn't too concerned because this big white group is still under
Pressure.
attack.
Right.
And that's really painful for white to connect like this.
So can we now expect black to turn to attacking these guys, or just simply, I mean, this seems like such a big move right now, but maybe the focus is more on attacking the white stones.
I think black will continue to attack.
You're darn tootin'. There we go.
And this seems like a fatal blow.
Yeah, this tail is enough, right? Well, if you'd still have the issue of taking care of this part, right? I mean, certainly if these stones don't die and these white stones die, it's over.
Right. And now I'm fully expecting white to play here because it's the only option. Actually, this could be a good idea. So now we're relying on. It's difficult to see this working. Let's see. As black, I would. So if black kills all these stones and white somehow kills all this, it could be interesting. I feel like black would still win.
Well, I mean, this cut could be helpful to the white stones. I guess not. That's a good move. That's a good move. It looked so clear before that stone, but that stone seems to give white. Well, like in any Go game, if the game is bad for you, you want to make it complicated, not simple. And I think that's the most complicating move I can find. I could see for white.
Yes. And now I'd expect black to play here.
Yeah, I would have played here and lost the game probably. Okay.
Wow. This one. So, yeah, it's obvious that black doesn't really care about these stones on the left at this point.
So, if white
This is forcing white's hand. White really has no choice but to
Atari
target.
there, right? Yeah. And then you're gonna give up. You're not gonna give up the 3 stones. You're just gonna counter Atari, and then you. And then you just. Then you can just play. Can't you just play there after that, and that's it?
Right, so black will connect. And then
Almost has to capture the stone.
yeah.
And then a move over here. You said didn't care, but you've got your kill, and nothing dies for black.
Well, the question is if this move is still working.
Oh, okay.
But white has no time. Has to capture this first. So if I were to play here now, black wouldn't take, but would just extend.
Right, absolutely.
And after white connects, we see the same knight's move shape.
That Keith can't find.
Aha. And so, black removes that possibility with this move.
which
that we
was
were
following
expecting
up on the
from.
purpose of this Atari for time sushi.
Right. So it's a possibility of a trade. However, black doesn't need to live with all of his stones. Black has captured enough to win the game. Even if, say, for example, black were to play like this.
So following up with this, if he's blocked on this side.
Right. So
see.
white would be forced to try and kill everything.
Right. I think it's fair to say that white's in the game if he can kill everything, but that's a lot to accomplish.
Yes. And now black should be able to make something resembling a living shape. But where is the shape? There's some danger for black, even like this.
So he goes a little more conservative, looks like.
If black were somehow willing to allow this exchange, then this looks like it's a living shape. However, this would allow white to kill black's corner by jumping here.
Which would be annoying.
Right, and there's no need for black to play so risky.
Looks like this, right? Eight. I think he's misthinking that this Tsuji works.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not going to speak up until I'm sure that I understand the question, but I think what we've been asked by the people is that this move would be salvation for black in all respects. And I think that's refutable. Well, it's not a question of confusing, it's just, responding, it's not there. Anyway, bad video. I don't think this move solves black.
Any problems?
Any
here?
problems.
Yeah.
It's simply can be handled with this.
Yes.
And this Atari, which is the only thing we get out of it, doesn't save the shape. So I think that move doesn't work. It is a Tsuji sometimes when the stones are in a different position and you don't have a push through here on the back door.
So in the game, black feels this is enough.
I think white is happy to maybe prove him wrong and to just lose that little bit.
Well, this move is a move that white has to make. This move would not be realistic. So that's exchanges white's privilege, is black's privilege. So this cut is aiming at making this hane sente. If white just hanes now, it doesn't work. So if black had simply answered like this,
That would be a success for white.
well, yes, white has cut off black's 2 stones. However, there's still a ko in the corner
Right.
with this move.
But he goes the other way. And that allows some mischief.
So after black answers like this, I think white is just grasping at straws here. Black's group here cannot be killed.
That doesn't look like that's what happened.
So white has resigned, I would think. Because the game's over.
Certainly hand slide and talking, but these stones ended up dying somehow?
I think they're playing a variation.
Oh. So, 6 in a row? Or not 6 in a row, but
Well,
6 wins.
this is only game 1.
Oh, of course. That's right. So Aaron's on his way to being the first Redmond player to win 6 with this first win. The first one to reach the 5-point is sitting next to me, Eric Louis. He got started very young. You all can see that. He'd already won 2 when this picture was taken.
And tomorrow we'll be back with round 2. We have Ryan Lee, Wandon Pro on commentary.
And hopefully someone better sitting next to him.
So overall, this game,
It's pretty exciting. I think it was a nice, exciting game.
yeah, a lot of give and take. I think White had a good flow from the opening. However, there was a crucial misreading, or it might have been a mistaken strategy, and
Right.
those are
Yeah, the ramifications of allowing the group to be cut was underestimated. Even if it was seen ahead of time, it was underestimated, the ramifications.
yes.
So, well, thank you so much, and see you tomorrow.